This show is listener supported. You are listening to Adoptees On, the podcast where adoptees discuss the adoption experience. This is Season 4, Episode 20, Fathers. I'm your host, Haley Radke. This is Part 2 of our Season 4 finale. If you missed last week's episode, press pause right here. Go back and listen to Janet Weinrich-Keel's incredible story of her 21-year search and her unbelievable strength and resilience throughout. It's amazing. That's Season 4, Episode 19. Now, today, Janet and I have a phone call with both of her dads, and I'm going to warn you right now, go grab some Kleenex because you're going to need it. We are going to wrap up with recommended resources, and as always, links to everything we'll be talking about today are on the website adopteeson.com. Make sure you stay with me after the interview with Janet and her dads for a few special surprises as we wrap up Season 4, and I'm going to share some news about what's coming up next for Adoptees On. Let's listen in. I am so pleased to welcome back to Adoptees On, Janet Weinrich-Keel. Welcome back, Janet.
Hi, Haley. Thanks for having me today.
Yes, so excited to talk with you again. And we have two special guests also, both of your dads. So we have Gordon here.
Hi, Haley. Thanks for having me.
Hi, welcome. And Emma, welcome.
Thanks, Haley. It's good to be here with you.
I'm so excited about our conversation because we so rarely hear from fathers. And, Janet's story is unusual because, Emil, you didn't even know you had a daughter. So why don't we start there? How about you just tell us a little bit about how you received the news? I'm assuming it was your wife that said something to you because Janet had the phone call with her. So can you just start us right there?
Yes, I can. Yeah, you're right. My wife received the call on April the 30th, a Sunday evening last year, and talked to Janet for about an hour, I believe. Then she called me. I was at work in Manitoba for a month away, and the first thing that Catherine said to me is, Emil, you really need to listen to what I have to tell you. This is really important. The first thing that went into my mind was we had a problem with the hot water tank, or there was a problem with the house, So then she continued to describe the conversation she had with Janet that evening, and I listened to her, but I didn't really believe that I was part of this story because I remember the years, back in 1977, 78 quite well, and for me to actually believe that she was my daughter I just couldn't get it around my head, because it just didn't fit in to anything that I conceived of, it just wasn't there at all. So I said to Catherine, I says, well, I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to write a letter to Janet, and I'm going to explain to her, that what the life of her biological mother was when I was with her for a year and a half, and give her some more information on the circumstances of her life and maybe other acquaintances she would have known and the year's history, so that she would have something to go on and to kind of move her research on. So that was the first thing in my mind. I thought, that's fine. And I thought, this is something I'm going to have to be a little bit careful about too, because I'm going to have to let her down a little bit gently, because I could also sense that this was something that was very important to her. And I never liked being the bearer of bad news or, that type of thing. So I started to compose a letter and to kind of start to explain to her what the situation was. And before I really got started with it, an email came from Janet onto my computer screen with the usual ping, that you hear when an email comes in. And I opened the email, and the very first thing that started to get me, the hairs that started to go up in the back of my neck, was when I saw her biological mother's name in print. Now, to hear it is one thing, but to see it in print it does carry some weight with it. And I read the letter, and I thought, okay, I can see what's, that you are, definitely trying to, find your biological father, and I think I could still maybe fill you in on what's going on. Now, with that email, Janet had sent 3 pictures, one of her family and 2 of herself. And I just opened up the first picture, and yeah, it threw me back. I knew at that moment, I really knew it, that she was my daughter. I could see my resemblance, and yeah, it was definitely something I'll always remember. At 62 years old, to suddenly find this out, and it's one of these things that you just cannot make sense in your mind. It just does not compute, but you can't get around similarities in the picture, and so that really threw me back. Now, after that, I really had to take a deep breath and, just sit down for a few minutes and find some quiet time for myself to just, recover from literally a shock,
Mm.
and to, pull myself together. Now, in the email, Janet had left me her phone number, and I wasn't quite ready to phone her back right then. It was actually a good thing that Catherine, my wife, talked to her first, because I don't think I could have dealt with that phone call as first contact. I think it would have been hard. So I called my wife back to talk to her about it. And I said to Catherine, I said, "Do you see what I see?" Referring to the pictures. And she said, "Yes, she is your daughter." And I said, "I just wanted to confirm that you were seeing what I was seeing,
Mm.
because at that point in time, you don't know whether you're thinking clearly or not, So we had a good conversation, me and Catherine, and then I settled back after that, and I just was in my room for a while. Just took some quiet time. I think it must have been maybe an hour, maybe close to maybe 2 hours. I'm not too sure. But it took me quite a while to actually pick up the phone and call Janet back. I do remember it taking me 3 tries, because I kept getting the phone number. I just could not dial the phone number correctly. I was always missing a number. There was something going wrong. It just wasn't happening. Yeah, it was terrible. Because, I knew that, when Janet picked the phone up, that I would be talking to my daughter for the very first time, in my life. So to get to that point, yeah, it definitely takes some, I don't know, you really have to kind of pull yourself together to be able to even do it,
Mm.
And knowing it was such a special moment, I sat in a dark room. I didn't have any lights on, and I had my eyes closed when, she picked up the phone. And then it started, and off it went. Now, for me, I would have to say that I did have the advantage because, I knew that, she was my daughter at that time. I didn't require a DNA test, and I didn't need any further proof from my side whatsoever. But I also knew from her side that how would she recognize family, resemblance, and so on. So I kept that in mind very much so as we were talking, and for the week after as well. That it was a very tender time,
Mm.
for sure, very tender time.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Okay. So this is like such a monumental moment in both of your lives. And Janet, I know you were keeping your parents in the loop. And so, Gordon, you kind of know some of this stuff is happening. And I think that a lot of adoptive parents, when their adoptees are searching for biological family, it can be really difficult on adoptive parents. And some of them may feel like, I don't know what the right word is, but just a little bit nervous or unsettled. You want what's best for your child, and you, even if they're an adult, and yet you still want to protect them and keep them from getting hurt. And what were some of the things going on for you when, Janet's been searching for years and years and years, and now she's kind of getting some answers?
Well, it was like 20 years in the search.
Yep.
And when she finally told me about Emma and everything, and I said to her, well, that's really good news. I wanted to hear that because one of my main thoughts was if something was to happen to her medically or whatever, we never had a background on her. And it was important to me that she find her background and know her medical history. And when it all happened, it was a great relief. And to talk to Emil and see how much similarities him and I have and the care and the love that comes from it, it was just amazing. There's such a common bond. And Emil was worried about me accepting him as to Janet's biological father. And I says, you have no reason to worry about that whatsoever. And tried to reassure him that there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's just wonderful. And from there, we sort of picked it up and started making phone calls and talking to each other and sharing our feelings, our thoughts, and our love for each other. And it just sort of grew from there.
Gordon, that's really awesome. It also seems unusual. And can you just talk a little bit about, I think some adoptive parents feel really insecure, like that they're going to have, either some love taken away from them or some time taken away from them, or, that it's going to hinder their relationship somehow. But how were you able to just be open arms and accepting and build this really neat relationship that you have with Emil?
Well, maybe it's just the kind of a person I am, a caring, loving person. And I just wanted to make sure that he wasn't going to be hurt at the other end as well. And I had no qualms about it whatsoever. And it just all fell together like it was meant to be. It was wonderful.
Wow. Okay, Janet, do you have thoughts on this? Because you've been watching, you know what's happening on both sides.
Yes. Well, and not only that, but, I come into this reunion that is just coming off of one of the most wildest adoption reunion abandonment stories actually kind of known on the planet, right?
Yeah.
And then also layer on top of that, I have a lot of other friends that are adoptees or foundlings. And let me tell you, their reunions, some of them might go well, but especially when it comes to the men, whether it's the fact that the men are not vocal enough or saying how they're feeling through the experience, or maybe it's just been a bad experience. Typically, the experience is not what we've had with Emil and Gordon, right? For me, I think I had said this in our call earlier. I recognized very early on that, okay, wait a minute, fine, yes, this is my story. I get that. And yes, this is my search, and this is my right to know the reason why I'm living. But Gordon, fine, yes, he did not make my life, but he made my life what it is today. So what I did from the very early onset of learning about Emil's name is telling him and also my mom, Geraldine, as soon as possible. And I guess I would say that I've seen a lot of adoptees miss that point. They get so wrapped up and it's so emotional and it's so busy. They kind of go, oh, it's me, and my feelings. But again, I guess I've gone through the search for so long. I already sort of was like, okay, wait a minute. This is the fatherhood side. This is Gordon's story too, right? So from the minute I was calling Emil that day, I remember I texted you, Dad, and said, "Hey, I'm calling Emil. P.S. You're always my dad and I love you." Now, I'm, a 39-year-old woman. We have a very good relationship. Was that really necessary? I don't know, but I just didn't care. I figured, hey, I'm saying it. I want him to feel included. I want him to feel secure. I don't know what I'm going to find. And then as the conversations with Emil came along, it didn't matter. It was 2 a.m. my time because I'm all the way in the east here. Could I have gone to bed that night and left everybody hanging? Well, I could have. But instead, I got on the phone and, told Gordon everything I knew about Emil and next steps. And, again, just really bringing him into the fold and really reassuring him that, hey, nothing's changing here.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And, I would say that I have seen that missed a lot with adoptees, with their fathers. And I can't really explain why. Maybe it's just because there's more of an emphasis on mothers in reunion,
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, that's interesting to think about. And I think a lot of us keep it separate. I've interviewed adoptees who have reunited with first families and haven't told their adoptive families until even as much as a year or years later. And some who have never shared.
Wow.
Yeah. And I think often in those cases, their relationship probably with their adoptive parents isn't quite as close as you've got. That's my podcaster expert opinion as far as much as that's worth. But yeah. So, okay, that's really interesting. And so, Emil, when you're hearing from, Janet and her parents, just like these open arms, and how does that, help you in adding yourself into this family? It's like another kind of marriage, right? You're just adding a whole nother set of in-laws or whatever. Kind of. I don't know what's the right terminology for that.
I don't know what it is, but I've been thinking about it. I haven't come up with one yet. I would say that Gordon and Geraldine today are family to me in a very intimate way. And I do love Gordon and I do love Geraldine very much because if you can imagine, I'm a 22-year-old boy in Prince Rupert. I've just finished my, post-secondary education. I've got a good job. Things are happening and things are going well with my girlfriend. And 40 years later, I discovered that, halfway through our relationship, she abandoned our daughter. And, that hurt me a lot. But at the same time, I realized today that, Gordon and Geraldine stepping into my life and Janet's life in January of 1978 was the best thing that ever happened to us. And it's something I cannot describe how grateful I am and how much I love Janet's parents, for that. It's a very emotional thought, to realize that your daughter, was abandoned and I had no idea whatsoever. And Gordon and Geraldine stepped in literally into my shoes and raised my daughter as their own and with the love and care that I know they have. You just can't describe the emotion that I feel on that alone, And even today, I realize that Gordon and Geraldine are Janet's mom and dad. There's no question in my mind about it. And I respect them both dearly. And to have Gordon accept me into his life is really what I would want. And I thought about it before too, Haley, that Gordon and Geraldine have always wanted the best for their daughter. And I look at myself today and I also want the best. So it really is a common ground that we both, it kind of draws us together as family. We're thinking the same thing, that we do want the best for our children. And yeah, it's something that I feel very deeply. Yeah. So to say that I love Gordon is very true. And I can say that freely, over the air or in private. It's just something that it's there. It's just the way it is. We've spent, time together, and me and Gordon have talked on occasion, and we've shed tears together, and it's been emotional. We don't tend to be the men that pitter patter around the bush or try to pretend it's something other than it is, and that's what makes I think our relationship so strong as well. That we're not afraid to let our guard down, and either one of us have nothing to prove. So it's just a wonderful place to be in my life. And if I do think about it, I'm actually glad that Gordon and Geraldine are in my life, because having two sets of parents for Janet is takes a lot of pressure off me. It does. it just feels good.
Well, you've got the unique position of you don't have other children, and so you're learning how to be a dad at your age. So you've got, some helpers now.
Well, I do have some helpers, and it's a funny thing too. You look at I think for fatherhood for Gordon is certainly one thing, because he's good at it, and he was able to step into it. And for me, it happened one evening last year, and it was instant. But I think I'm very much like Gordon. I'm a very loving person as well, and I also understand what fatherhood means. I was raised in a family that I had a wonderful mother and I had a wonderful father, so I could see a loving home, and the support I had as a child and as I grew up was unconditional love, and they were always there. So I had a good I don't know how you would say it.
Role models.
Yeah, role models.
I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, for my parents,
Mm-hmm.
and very much so. And even today, it's their imprint on me carries my love towards my daughter Janet and her mother and father as well.
Mm-hmm.
Even today, it
Mm-hmm.
does.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
So yeah, and I do mean that, Gordon. And I've never had a problem ever thinking that or telling that to you personally when we do get together, or we do sometimes wander down that road, and it does get emotional sometimes with me and Gordon, and I have no problem with that at all, because what I found, Haley, in this whole experience for myself is that, yeah, it's been very emotional for me. I've had lots of tears, but to go there and to feel the emotion has been very healing for me as well.
Mm-hmm.
It really has.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do want to ask you one more question about that, and then I have a question for Gordon. But can you talk a little bit about that? How have you processed some of this healing? Because, as you said, your girlfriend of the time abandoned Janet, and finding that out. I feel sick to my stomach when I hear that part of the story, and
Hmm.
and I don't have a connection with her.
Yes.
So, can you just talk a little bit about that?
Well, surprisingly, my first reaction was shock, and I didn't actually have an opinion at that time about my girlfriend at the time. Now, as soon as the shock wore off, I pretty well went into a mode of forgiveness, pretty well right away, for a couple of reasons. First of all, I've seen so many people in the past where they go down a road of, feeling of betrayal, or, hatred, or and so on and so on, and it consumes them to the point where they just can't get it out of their system. I realized very quickly, and for myself, that yes, I could take these feelings into this relationship, but it's not what I want to do.
Mm,
I will not bring those feelings of anger and betrayal any further than where they were left. And my relationship with Gordon and Geraldine and Janet and my wife Catherine will not be influenced by the actions that Janet's biological mother had back in 1977.
Mm-hmm.
And it is something that will never happen in my life. And and I can say that from two sides. That first of all, it will never happen, and secondly, it's the way I feel. So it's not like I have to even put any effort into it.
Mm.
Yeah, because the damage has been done,
Mm.
and I'm also stepping into a role of a father, and I think Gordon can sort of believe me on this one. Is that yes, we do the best for our children and our families, and that's part of it. Is that we do not bring that in. You know,
Mm.
it's a time for healing and bringing families together.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd like to add this as well, Haley, is that people will probably look at this story and say, well, yes, Janet has found her biological father, Emil, and they're having a wonderful relationship. But it's so much more than that. My wife Catherine is involved, Gordon and Geraldine, Janet's brother, sister. I have grandsons. Janet's husband, Hod. There's just so much coming together on this that you have to include everybody.
Mm.
It's not just between me and Janet.
Mm-hmm.
That may have been the first week or the first few days, but as time has moved on, I quickly realized that to have it healthy for Janet means having it healthy for Gordon and Geraldine, healthy for my wife Catherine, Hod. Everybody has to feel included as family. I think that's another reason why we've been so successful.
Mm.
For myself,
Mm-hmm.
Haley, I can pick up the phone anytime during the week and I can phone Gordon or Geraldine. And when I do call them, I'm completely relaxed and I'm looking forward to the conversation. There's nothing stiff about it, or there's nothing that is inside me that says, geez, you haven't talked to Gordon in a few days. Maybe I should give him a call because I'm supposed to. There's none of that kind of stuff going on. I love to talk to Gordon and enjoy our conversations,
Mm.
and also feel a connection with him.
That must feel good to hear, Gordon.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was really, it's really good to hear.
Mm.
Emil is such a wonderful, caring person, and uh, the love goes a long way.
Gordon, do you have any advice for other people that might be navigating reunion in some fashion? I expressed earlier, sometimes it's a little more tricky building a relationship in these circumstances. And so do you have advice for people who might be not in as good a place as you guys are? Anything that they could do to repair things that maybe aren't as healthy as, you guys have?
Well, the thing is, you've just got to do it and let your emotions roll and just uh, make the initial contact, and you'll be surprised how things flow. And with Emma and I, it worked wonders. Perhaps not for everyone, but unless you try, you don't know. And it's important with family and everything. And like Emil says, it involves a lot of people. I think that, yeah, you just got to go for it.
Mm. And Janet, do you have any thoughts on that? How have you guys built out this extended family, which really is what it is now?
Yeah. I mean, I'll be honest, Haley. Like I mean, come on. I mean, look at the story, right? And how long I searched, and then of course, okay, I find my biological mother, and she passed away before I could even say, hey, who were you dating? What do you know? What can you tell me? So, I mean, I really felt, especially in terms of finding my biological father, that it really wasn't going to happen. I just want to just trail on what Gordon was just saying because, and I'm sorry to say this, Dad, but you're just too humble. So I'm going to say it for him. He just always says, oh, it's just me. I'm just being me. But, I think that really what Gordon and Emma have done is something that I think I'm just going to go on a whim and say it, a lot of men struggle with in terms of, going into a scenario with sort of an egoless, very selfless openness towards an experience to say, hey, wait a minute. The only threat is the threat I conjure up in my head. What if I really was to go into this scenario because I love my daughter, the daughter that I committed to raise from the time that I brought her into my home? And what if I just went in with an open heart? And great, maybe I won't jive with that person. But does that actually really matter? Because really all that matters is showing respect to the people who made my life possible, right? Mm. And then from Emil's perspective, that too is also very important. And he too came with the same mindset of just this real no fear and no ego and just love and openness. Who is this man that raised my daughter? There wasn't this closeness and sort of these preconceived notions or even him whipping himself up into this emotional turmoil to think, oh, well, maybe he's like this or like that. There wasn't any of that. It was just so open and fluid, and all that translates back to is me, right? Because when I think fathers, whether they're biological or adoptive, behave in such a way together and also apart, well, what does that tell the child, right? I mean, it shows the most utmost respect that you really can for a life. And I think that's really what it boils down in reunion, because again, not everybody can necessarily have this kind of relationship that Gordon and Emil have. And also not everybody can even be friends in life. And you know what? That's okay, right? Mm-hmm. But, again, when it comes to reunion, you have to look at, well, what does this mean? And for me, it meant finding answers and respecting those answers. At no point did Gordon and Emil ever turn away from this experience. And what I mean by that is they never shied away from the uncomfortable truth. And really what I'm trying to say is early 1978, Gordon and Geraldine came up and brought this mystery baby home. I mean, they knew that my parents were out there, but what could they do, right? They had to, And then 39 years later, we finally find this man. And it's just so amazing because the first thought Gordon had was, hey, sit beside me. Let's co-father. I mean, it's just remarkable. Yeah, isn't it remarkable?
Yes.
Right?
Yes, it is. It is. And I'll gush a little bit for you because I'm just so happy for you, Janet, because you put in so many years of work searching and to find some of the very difficult things you've uncovered.
Yeah.
And then to have this beautiful reunion that also includes your parents. And, I'm just so thrilled for you because, there's so many of us that don't have a beautiful resolution like that. And it's not it's not a resolution. It's another beginning to your story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to add one last thing, though, because it really goes in the same vein of what Emma was saying earlier about including everybody. Because, I have a lot of people that write me and follow my story, and they always sort of say the same thing. They say, wow, you're so lucky. And, I have a hard time with that because, sure, yeah, okay, is it amazing? And is it, absolutely just like a dream almost. But it really is only because everybody wants this.
Mm.
So, everybody is on the same page. Nobody comes to the table with ego and issues. And yes, we can talk about and we can acknowledge that, yes, what happened all those years ago was not right and should have never happened. And I love that we're actually able to do that because I need my loss acknowledged too, right?
Mm.
But really, when we talk about lucky, it's actually really just a choice. Gordon has made the choice to be this man, and Emma has made this choice to be this man, and Catherine has her choice, and Geraldine and my children and my partner. I mean, it just goes on and on. So, really, it's just a matter of everybody coming together to just make such a beautiful ending, really.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you saying those things. Okay, well, thank you so much, each of you, for sharing all of your pieces of your story with us and just really speaking from the heart. My mascara is a little bit runny. I will say that. Okay, so let's go ahead and do our recommended resources. Janet and I both have something. Gordon, do you have anything you want to say, or are you going to pass on this one?
I think I'm going to pass.
Okay. And Emil, did you have anything you wanted to share?
Well, I think when people do enter into a reunion, and I'm just speaking for myself because I can't really speak for anybody else, but I feel that you need to be very honest and transparent in everybody's lives, because me coming into Gordon and Geraldine's life and Janet's life, they don't know who I am. And, even coming onto a podcast like this, saying to them, look, this is who Emil is. He's got nothing to hide. He is who he is, Also, in the reunion, I've always acknowledged Janet's the pain and hurt that she has had in her life, knowing that, and it has hurt me as well, Haley, to realize that I had a child out there that thought that she wasn't wanted by a biological parent. And so to have her listen to myself and the pain I have and the pain that she has and the thoughts that I have as well, I think have been very good. And it's not that, and sometimes, I thought that this is something Janet needs to hear, but it's more than that. It's something that I need to tell her, that she would have always been loved and she would have always been wanted in my life, and have her feel secure in the relationship that we're building today. And these are my feelings toward her as my daughter,
Mm-hmm.
And my love has always been would always have been unconditional, and it is today, for her and her family, which is Gordon and Geraldine, everybody.
Mm.
Yeah.
Thank you. And Janet, do you want to respond to that or give us your resource, or both?
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, that is one thing, especially, like I've talked about before, that sort of slight difference of foundling and adoptee, for Emil to already intuitively know that, hey, wait a minute, my daughter does need to hear this, right? She does need that reassurance. She does need that feeling that, okay, I'm not going to abandon you again. Now, again, I say again, he did not abandon me. Okay, let's make that very clear. But he's part of that bucket, It brings up that same feeling, that same emotion and worry and angst that, oh, where do I stand? Where are we going? What are we doing? That type of thing.
Mm.
For example, when they were visiting me here in PEI and they left, I actually felt like I was being abandoned again, which I just couldn't even believe that I was having these feelings at 40 years old just because I saw his car drive away, right? Like it really brought out those very primal feelings of loss and abandonment. So I have to say that yes, Emil is so emotionally expressive and available, and he's certainly been just so open, and his words have just flowed so well for me to finally hear at 40 years old that, hey, wait a minute. Yes, fine, this woman who carried you abandoned you, but I didn't abandon you.
Mm-hmm.
Incredibly powerful. And, and that's the other side of it too. If adoptive fathers, biological fathers are out there listening to this, you can't really get that from any other source except from the source, right? I've been doing therapy a long time. I've got very loving parents, very secure relationships. But to hear that from a biological parent, I tell you, it's just so healing.
Mm-hmm. Nothing like that. Yep. I agree.
There's nothing like it. No. So I do have a recommended resource. It is a book that I've read several times by a Buddhist nun and writer, Pema Chodron. It is called When Things Fall Apart, Hard Advice for Difficult Times. Now, I know that's not adoption-centric, but I've found it to be really great by way of a reminder that, time is always flowing, things are always changing, and nothing's permanent. So that's a really great resource that I lean on.
Oh, that's so interesting. Thank you. I
Mm-hmm.
checked it out when you sent it to me ahead of time, and it looks so helpful. So thanks. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I sort of have two. First of all, I really have appreciated, Janet, following your story on social media, because you have this beautiful way, I'm going to call it microblogging, from Instagram and Facebook, sharing your story, sharing little vignettes. And I think it's been really powerful for a lot of people who are just curious about your story anyway, but have no connection to adoption. I see them following you and seeing you unpack these different things. And so I think people should definitely be following you on Instagram and Facebook, and we'll give you the links to all those things in a second. And the other thing I really wanted to bring to this conversation, I was like, okay, I've got to find the best father reunion, something themed, recommended resource, going to be so perfect. And I'm looking and looking, and I'm just like, I can't find it. I can't find it. And
well, I know. I've often said to Emil and Gordon, we have to write a book.
Yes, please.
And I'm not really joking, actually. Just so you guys know, I'll do the heavy lifting.
Yeah. So yes, you guys, great. You get on that. That's perfect. And in the meantime, while we're waiting for Janet to finish writing up this book, if you have something that you think this is awesome, dads should really be reading this, first dads, adoptive dads, will you send it to us? So go to adopteeson.com/connect. You can find all of our social media links and any resources that you send that are father related. I will put them on the show notes for this episode, and hopefully we can build up a few. It's just so lacking. We've said several times, we're so focused on first mothers and finding our mothers, and most of the reunion stories and things we hear are all centered around mothers. And so I'm just, again, so thankful that you guys were able to share your story with us. And yeah, I'm hoping that some of the listeners will have some good ideas for us. Okay, so thank you again. Janet, where can we connect with you online?
So I am all over. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I also have a website. So on Facebook and Instagram, you can find me at Janet Weinrich Keel. Twitter is Janet RWK, and my website is janetweinrichkeel.com.
Perfect. And if people would like to send Gordon or Emil a note, they can just connect with you on social and you'll connect them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wonderful.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you, all three of you, for sharing again with us. Just so honored to have been a part of this conversation.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Haley.
Yeah, it was nice to be here with you, Haley.
Thank you. Oh, wasn't that a great conversation? I just had such a great time listening to them. I just such a special, intimate moment that they shared with us. I'm so grateful for that opportunity to share that conversation with you. Now, we touched on this a couple of times about like, where are the fathers and where are the resources for them? And so I asked one of our favorite guests to come and just chat with me a little bit about that. So let's listen in to my conversation with her. Well, I'm so pleased to welcome back to Adoptees On Anne Heffron. Hi, Anne.
Hey, Haley.
This is so last minute, I know, but I just wanted to talk to you a little bit just about dads in adoption land. I feel like they're missing. Where are all the first dads? Where are they?
It's not a good question. I mean, when did you, because I didn't even realize I had a father until, I mean, maybe even in my 30s.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I never wondered about the father. Did you?
I don't think I thought about him much. Sorry, Dad. I know you listen to this.
Yeah. Hi, Dad.
Really, yeah. It really was about finding my birth mother. And even then, when reunion went south, it wasn't really on my radar, And this is kind of, I don't know, should I admit this or not? It was one of those things where I thought, well, she really doesn't want to have a relationship with me. I mean, why would my dad? He didn't carry me with a pregnancy.
Yeah.
So I think there's another disconnect for us. That's sort of my experience. I don't know what brought your dad to your mind even later on.
It's so funny. It wasn't until the whole birth mother thing, just like you, I think, it wasn't until that whole thing kind of went through, and then it was sort of like, well, who's next? Like, if I can't have her, what else is there? But then it was like a surprise, like, oh my gosh. And then I started to realize that not thinking about him didn't mean it didn't affect me. I think after high school, when I was starting to be affected by adoption in ways that I wasn't even realizing, I had an easier time being friends with men than with women. And it wasn't until much later that I thought that perhaps it had something to do with adoption, like some part of my brain didn't trust women, thinking that they would go away. But thinking that when I realized there was a man out there and that I could possibly have a father figure who mirrored me, made me realize that also perhaps I had issues with men that I didn't even really realize I had those issues. How can you choose a husband? People say that you choose a husband, like your relationship with your father helps you, the quality of the choice that you make for a husband.
Mm-hmm.
And how can you do that if you have a dad who actually hasn't mirrored you genetically? I mean, I know some people can, but I didn't feel entirely like myself because I don't think my dad entirely mirrored me in the same way. I mean, he did a really good job, but it just was different. And so, my first husband was Asian. It's like I picked someone different.
Yeah, that's interesting. I haven't thought about that before.
But I think so much of it is subconscious, and I think that just bringing this to light, the fact that adoptees have both a birth mom and a birth dad, and holding men responsible. I kind of joke that I want to sue my birth father for a hit and run. Because the men really, they can cause a lot of damage. The women have to take time off school if they're young. And the men they don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah. And there's no signature on my papers. right? There's only
No.
hers. And then you think about fathers that find out later on that their whatever ex-girlfriend or something gave up a child for adoption, and then they have no recourse, and it's kind of a shocking thing. But then I'm also curious, what do you think about this? Now, this is all highly speculative, non-scientific talk between
That's my favorite.
Yes. But also, mostly it's adoptees that initiate searching, but some
Right.
some first mothers do. Some first mothers
Right.
search and try and reconnect with their lost children. But I think it's really unusual for the dads to do that. I've heard of a couple of cases. However, it's unusual.
Yeah.
Where are they? Do they wonder where their kids are? Or are they just able to compartmentalize more than women can?
Isn't that, I think the unknown is really scary. And so I imagine, I certainly don't know of any stories of a man searching for, I would love to hear them, but I haven't heard any. But I think it must be really frightening if you were a man and you knew that you had a child out there. Like, what if the child? It's almost like why people are afraid to search for their birth mom or their first mom. What if she's crazy? What if she wants my money? What if people have all these fears that keep them from searching?
Mm-hmm.
What if it's the same for the men? And also, maybe there's shame. It's funny. It's like, I heard once that when babies are born, they look more like the father than the mother, so that it was from caveman days, so the fathers wouldn't run away. And, I kind of feel like that, who knows? That's probably just a big rumor, but it kind of makes sense. Like, what person, wants this baby that's going to be demanding, and like, a guy is just going to want to say, I gotta go fishing, honey. Take care of the baby. I mean, women are made to feed the children, so the women must be more biologically dialed in to stay. Where a man isn't his job to propagate, and not just. Isn't he like Johnny Appleseed? Sorry, Dad. Really, I think men and women are so different.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think it could go better?
Well, there's always the end of adoption. That is hard to say, really. I don't know. And I feel so fortunate in my reunion with my dad because, we've worked through a lot of things, and, he stuck in there. We had that episode with his wife who, decided to stick to it.
So good. What a lovely person.
Yeah. So I feel really fortunate, and I know there's lots of reunions that just go real south, fast. So it's, I don't know. I don't have an answer for that. And I guess with all this, speculating that we're doing with the conversation, I'm hopeful that some of you will come back and share your thoughts. And where are the dads? Where are the first dads in adoptee rights, in adoption land? We need more of you to speak up and share your stories. And I remember when I was talking with, I think Liz Laddie and I talked a little bit about this in her episode about fathers, because she's in reunion with her biological father, and the fathers that are around aren't speaking up enough in advocacy like we see, like Concerned United Birth Parents, right? We went to that retreat together, and it was almost exclusively mothers.
Right.
And so our father, like, where are they? Where are you? How do we get more fathers involved? How do we get more interested men to speak up for fathers' rights? And I think it's really important. And you haven't heard this yet because this episode's not out. But when I talk with Janet and Emil and Gordon in the recommended resources segment, I said to them, I'm like, I wanted to bring a really great resource for us in reunion with our dads or something to do with biological fathers. And I just couldn't find anything, and I called for like, please come and tell us your resources. And isn't that sad that I couldn't even find something?
I mean, there was Jenna's great story of when she called her dad and he kept, or he was afraid to talk to her because he was afraid he was going to cry.
Mm-hmm.
And then his wife encouraged him, and then he did call and he did cry. And I wonder if there is like that emotional. I wonder if it's emotionally even too hard for so many men to even think about. I mean, Haley, it's so beyond my comprehension why there aren't more men. So searching for their children, and I feel like there's facts that I'm missing, or there's a way of thinking that I don't get. And I imagine her dad that, for so many, I mean, I know I'm grouping people together, but if you think of men are less willing to be emotionally vulnerable than women, like as a group generally,
Mm-hmm.
right? And search and reunion is so difficult emotionally.
Yeah.
That I wonder if they don't have the tools. Is it just not in their vocabulary to talk about it? Do you know, like, does it, how there was a group of, I think Native Americans, and they'd never ever seen a boat, and then a boat came on the horizon and they didn't see it because it didn't exist in their mind. So they couldn't even process what it was. So they didn't see it. And I wonder somehow if we haven't been talking about this issue as a culture, that men can't even see that it exists because there aren't the words. What's the word for missing a child that you created but you never met? And you didn't bear it, you didn't carry it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, women suffer to give birth. Men actually just have a good time.
Well, my husband almost threw up, so
I meant actually in the creation act, because these men. I thought that's also what you're talking about.
No.
and then I'm really sorry.
No, I meant in the delivery room.
Yeah, but these men weren't there, right? So I don't. Maybe part of them they just didn't. They don't. There's not an. Like, you have intercourse. That doesn't mean that they don't go A to B. Like I impregnated a woman. Maybe their brains don't then go to, she's pregnant, she's going to deliver a baby, right? It's more like, this is something maybe they've done many, many times. Maybe maybe it doesn't add up in their brain. Part of them doesn't even believe it.
Well,
for a woman, you're pregnant and you kind of have that disbelief, right? Like, I can't be pregnant. And then you get sick, and then it starts kicking, and then your brain gets to process like, wow, I really am pregnant.
Right. And to be fair, I'm sure there are lots of men in Emil's same situation where he was never told. He was never told. And so that's a percentage of them. I don't know what, but.
Yeah, and you're never told, or you're told, but you don't believe it. Right? Like, like there's also like, are you sure? I mean, because there's so many stories of that. It's just also complicated. So it'd probably be a lot easier just to live in denial.
Well, it's time to wake up. There's some of us out here looking and are interested.
Yeah, well, part of it is telling them like what's good about it, right? Like, why would they want? And that's why it's great you had Emil on the show, so that because his life became exponentially better because Janet contacted him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. I love that you're doing this. You're creating a new world.
A world where fathers have
Yeah.
bonus kids as adults.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Yeah, okay. Well, thanks for speculating with me.
yeah, that was so fun.
It's a good conversation starter, and I hope that if anyone else has ideas and thoughts about where the fathers are, we'd love to
Yeah.
hear them. We'd love to hear them.
It's like, where's Waldo? But it's
Where's
dad.
Waldo? Where are the
Yeah.
fathers? Well,
You're the best, Haley.
thanks for chatting with me, Anne. Where can we connect with you online and find out about some of the upcoming retreats that you and Pam Cordano are doing?
Oh, yep. So Pam Cordano and I have our Beyond Adoption U retreats. We have one this coming weekend and then one the next in Berkeley. And then we're having one in January. You could go to Beyond Adoption U on Facebook, or you could email me at annheffron at gmail.com. And I'm on Instagram where I meme about adopt at Ann_Heffron. And Haley, your show, I keep telling when adoptees write to me, I mean, the first thing I say is, do you listen to Adoptees On? Because this is the show that changed my life. So thank you.
Thanks, Anne. I love you, friend. Oh my gosh, you guys. Anne never fails to make me laugh so hard. I love her perspective on things and her ability to shift things around and look from different angles. Wonderful. Just so fun. So anyway, that's sort of our lighthearted look at where are the dads. And as I said, I'd love to hear from you. Where do you think the dads are? How do we get more fathers involved? And how do we show them what they're missing out on in relationship with us? Next, I have a little clip that I asked for from one of the executive producers of this new project that is happening in Canada called Mom's the Word. So let's listen in to that.
I don't think the girls can express this. They will say, for instance, I don't know what I'm going to do to give up this baby sister. It didn't do anything to me at the beginning, but now it's growing and it's moving and it's becoming so much part of me. I don't know how I'm going to part with it, but I just have to. I haven't got a choice.
Hello, my name is Colin Shine, and I'm a documentary filmmaker based in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. You've just listened to an excerpt from my interactive documentary, Mom's the Word. A lot of Canadians are not aware that during the post-war period, approximately 1945 to 1975, upwards of 350,000 mothers were separated from their children. Many of these separations happened in maternity homes, which were mainly church-run organizations where unwed mothers would be hidden away from the world. Canada now is at a turning point, a place of both reconciliation and a place of infinite questions as we begin to understand how these maternity homes have shaped our country. Over the past 2 years, we've traveled across Canada and visited many of these maternity homes. More importantly, we've interviewed dozens of mothers and adoptees who all have important stories to teach us about the history and legacy of the adoption mandate. We're hoping that we can have your support. If this is a project that you see as important and valuable, please consider contributing to our current GoFundMe campaign or visiting our Facebook page, Mom's the Word, the movie. You can also find us online at www.mumsthewordthefilm.com.
Thank you, Colin. Good luck with your fundraising for that. I can't wait to see what happens with your project. So exciting. Okay, so this was our season 4 finale, and you're probably wondering, oh, darn, how long do we have to wait until the next episode of the show? And don't worry, we have lots to come. So next week, we're going to be back with a healing episode. I don't want to leave you hanging for National Adoption Awareness Month. I mean, when else do we need the most support from adoptee voices but getting through November? So don't worry. Every single week, we are bringing you a new episode, and I want to tell you what I'm working on for our next series. It's going to be a bit of a shorter series. I know relationships went on for a long time. It's the longest series I've done so far. This one will be shorter, and I'm going to be talking to several different adoptees about their struggles with addiction. This is such a critical issue for adopted people. And we have higher incidence of addiction and mental illness than the general population. So this is just a really, really critical area. So even if you don't struggle with addiction, I know you are going to learn some really important information from these adoptees who are really going to be pouring out their hearts to you. So I can't wait to share some of their stories with you. So you can look forward to that. But like I said, we've got some healing episodes coming up, and then we'll start in onto that next series, Adoptees and Addiction. And I literally could not continue to do the show every single week for you without my supporters. So I want to thank you so, so much, all of you who are supporting me monthly. If you have found Adoptees On valuable and would like to support our work here, you can go to adopteeson.com/partner and find more details of the benefits of becoming a monthly partner with me. I would love to have you as a supporter. And the very best way you can support the show is simply by sharing an episode with a friend. Share Janet's story with someone that you know that lives in Canada and might not have heard her. Her incredible story of search and reunion. Maybe you know another adopted person who could really use some support. Maybe there's a healing episode you can recommend to them. Spreading the word about the show is the best way for us to build the audience and help more adopted people find support and community. Thank you for allowing me to speak with you every single week. It's such an honor to spend this time with you. Thank you for letting me share these amazing people with you and for honoring their stories. It's a privilege I do not take lightly. So sincerely, thank you for listening, and let's talk again next Friday.